Well, hey, podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 46 of the Pixar Post Podcast. As usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And today we're going to chat about Inside Out's big win at the Golden Globes, what to look forward to for the remaining award shows that are out there, a little bit of news about Sanjay's super team, and we'll continue our Good Dinosaur interview sessions from the press event as we chat with Directing Animator Rob Thompson and animator Kevin O'Hara. You definitely want to listen to this one. It's like a little mini education in a box.
Yes.
So it's a fantastic one. Well, let's kick right off though with a new segment we want to talk about the Pixar Minute. It's something that we thought of.
Well, you thought of this one.
Yeah, I was actually just one day I was going, okay, so what is another way that we can reach a different audience where, you know, some of these people might not be able to keep up and read all of these longer form articles that are out there, but it's a great way to kind of summarize it and then encapsulate the links that you want to go to if you do want to read more about it. Mm-hmm. We also thought, hey, let's hit the YouTube audience that's out there. It'll kind of introduce some more people to us and then the podcast and all those other kind of fun things too. But I kind of was thinking about what do we say whenever we sign off of a podcast or anything like that. We always say, be sure to stay tuned to Pixar Post all week for the latest Pixar news. And I'm like, well, how else can I tell people about the latest Pixar news? So this is what we kind of wanted to do. We're going to include a whole bunch of course, the news as we talk about. We're also going to have some fun facts about Pixar, a little history along the way if something falls on that particular date that we may be doing the Pixar Minute. Could be a sneak peek at a new giveaway that we're going to do on the site, or just a look behind the scenes at maybe somehow like how we record the podcast or something like that. Anyway, we hope you enjoy it, and please let us know your thoughts as we move forward with the Pixar Minute. So
yeah,
if you haven't
already received such great feedback, and we just released it today.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was very early,
late last night.
2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So technically today, yeah, because we're recording this on January 13th. So yeah, it ought to be interesting to see what comes of it. But definitely, so far, people have enjoyed the idea of it, and certainly let us know your thoughts as well. And if you feel like there's something that we should be including in that Pixar Minute, we'd be happy to. All right, and let's talk awards. We had talked about a little bit about this on our last podcast, so we don't want to dig into all of the specifics of it. But of course, we need to talk about the Golden Globes because Inside Out took home the top prize for Best Animated Motion Picture.
So that's so exciting.
Extremely exciting. So it was up against a great group of animated films, of course, one of those being The Good Dinosaur. Sadly, they both couldn't win. But
the first year that we're going to have 2 Pixar feature films, you know, against each other, really.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, especially once we start looking into, you know, the Visual Effects Society Awards and all those types of things where we get into the nitty-gritty of effects and simulation and all those kind of things.
Animation and yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's going to get real juicy. But so for the Golden Globes, they only had one that anybody was up for in the animated category, so they don't have a short film category or anything like that either. So the top prize, of course, went to Inside Out, and it was, again, up against The Good Dinosaur, Shaun the Sheep movie, The Peanuts movie, and Anomalisa. So let's go ahead and listen to the audio of Pete and Jonas after they get announced, giving their acceptance speech.
The nominees for animated feature film are
Anomalisa, The Good Dinosaur, Inside Out, The Peanuts movie, Shaun the Sheep movie.
Tonight, the Golden Globe goes to...
I know it.
Pulling for you, Dave.
Inside Out.
Coming to the stage are director Pete Docter and producer Jonas Rivera. Accepting the Golden Globe tonight for Inside Out is Pete Docter.
Wow, you know, when I was in junior high, literally my goal was to make it through the day with no one noticing me. Obviously, something went horribly wrong tonight. But the point is, we felt like growing up was really hard, and that's a worthy subject to make a movie about.
It is, yeah, and wow. Listen, making this movie has been the joy of our lives. We are so proud of it, and for that we have to thank the amazing crew of artists we work with at Pixar. They're the greatest artists in the world. And everybody at Disney, Mr. Horn and Bergman and Bob Iger and John Lasseter and Jim Morrison, everybody. And of course, our families, our wives, Michelle and
Amanda.
And our kids are watching too. We love you guys, and thank you so much to the Hollywood Foreign Press.
All right, now that is absolutely how a speech is supposed to be. If everybody could do it like that.
I know.
Where the director gives a nice equal amount of time or more to the producer. You know, Pete comes in, says what he wants. He says, of course, a funny, humorous line. And then you've got Jonas that comes in, that he's got all the great congratulations to people about the animators and all these other things. I mean, it's like, again, they were a perfect team in making Inside Out, in Up, and now they're the perfect team in making the greatest acceptance speech. It was brief, but yet covered everything that it absolutely...
Heartfelt.
Yeah.
And they think they're families.
Yes.
Which was really cute at the end.
So here's an interesting thing. So somebody I was talking to mentioned that, it was kind of funny that Jonas forgot Pete's wife's name. And I'm like, no. He absolutely knows Pete's wife's name.
He didn't want to say it.
Well, he was letting him say it.
Right.
Yeah. But it's funny that, somebody had said that to me, that they were thinking like, he must have forgot his wife's name. I'm like, he definitely knows.
He stood to the side so Pete could say it.
Right. Yeah. But it was funny. The outsider's perspective,
Yeah,
that doesn't
interesting.
necessarily just assume that somebody may have thought that.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of funny. So definitely congratulations again to the crew, to Pete and Jonas and everybody that worked on this film. I mean, it was absolutely a fantastic film, but that's only one.
Yes, the awards keep coming.
The awards keep coming. So like I mentioned, we're recording this on January 13th, but the Academy Award nominations, a.k.a. the Oscars, are actually tomorrow morning. So by the time you're listening to this, most likely,
yes,
the nominations will be coming out on 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, January 14th. And be sure to stay tuned to our homepage, of course, as we'll be summarizing all of the awards as they're happening and as they're announced for the different categories that... whether it be
Pixar,
Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, or Sanjay's Super Team.
I'm hoping for all three.
Well,
and screenplay, and Michael Giacchino, and it could be the Dana brothers. It could be so many things.
So, we know for Sanjay's Super Team, though, that it's advancing, isn't it?
Well, no, it's in the 10.
Oh, that's right. They have to whittle it down.
Yeah.
I always forget this. There's
goes
so many
10 to
layers.
5.
There's so many layers, because it was like, they announced it, and in my head, I'm like, they're there.
Yeah, but the big thing is, will Inside Out get the Best Picture nomination?
Right. Yeah. So let's throw our predictions out.
I do think Inside Out will get a Best Picture nomination. I don't think it'll win because I think The Revenant's going to take...
You think that's going to be the winner this year, kind of like how Birdman was last year?
Yep, I think that's going to be the big one.
Okay.
I read an interesting article, and we'll have to talk about this in our next podcast, about how animated directors are never able to be up for Best Director for the Academy Awards.
Yeah. That kind of went around all the different sites today. I ended up reading that as well.
Yes.
I even commented on the article, said very eye-opening.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I do think Michael Giacchino will be up for score. Mm-hmm. I think that Inside Out will also get a nod for screenplay.
Okay.
I think that is I think it's a big stretch.
Sure.
But I kind of feel like they might get it.
Well, let's not spend too much time guessing, because by the time people are listening to this...
It'll be announced.
So we shall see if we're right, but we want to put it out there. So after they're announced, of course, we'll have all these dates in the show notes as well, but the Oscars are airing on February 28th. So the VES Awards are going to be airing on February 2nd, and just the other day, they did their nominations, and Inside Out and The Good Dinosaur are nominated 8 times across 4 categories, those categories being Outstanding Visual Effects in an Animated Feature, Outstanding Animated Performance in an Animated Feature, specifically for Spot
and
for
Joy.
The Good Dinosaur, and Joy for Inside Out, of course, Outstanding Created Environment in an Animated Feature film, for
The Farm and The Good Dinosaur and Imagination Land and Inside Out.
Absolutely. And then Outstanding Effects Simulation in an Animated Feature. So we're not going to list out all the artists because each category has about 5 or 6 different artists in it. So if you do want to read those, just head to our show notes. And again, if you don't know how to get to our show notes, just go to pixarpost.com, click on the podcast button, and this is episode 46, and it'll have all the links that you would like to visit after listening to the show. So yes, we're very excited for the VES Awards. That one's going to be right around the corner at February 2nd.
Yeah, we always really like this because this is such a technical award show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for the geekery of it all, for sure.
But what were your thoughts when you heard the the created environment and saw that the Good Dinosaur was just up for the farm.
Okay, yeah.
My first thoughts were, well, did they have to have a specific place and they couldn't do the river because Arlo's on a continuous journey?
Yeah, I don't...
And that's where the simulation nod goes to, because that's all simulation.
But they don't note that specifically in the simulation. It's just overall simulation.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
but they're different artists that create like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know enough about the specifics of how they come up with the nominations, but it is interesting seeing as the farm was a nod, and really the farm is only several minutes in the film.
Right.
So that wasn't... I didn't even think about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I thought about that, and I was like, well, maybe that's where the, simulation team is going to go to.
Yeah.
That fourth award.
We shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see. That's interesting. Okay, so then the Annie Awards, February 6th, just 4 days after.
I know, I'm so excited for this one, too. We love this award show.
Yeah, we talked about it before.
I know, it's just fun.
It's a kooky one for sure. So we definitely don't want to get into the specifics of it because we did talk about this on the last episode as well, so check the show notes for a full breakdown. But just as a quick summary, Sanjay's Super Team has 1 nomination, The Good Dinosaur has 10 nominations, Inside Out has 14 nominations. So that's a
total of 25 Pixar nominations.
That's quick math.
Yes.
And then the BAFTA Awards are coming up on February 14th. So Valentine's Day, get your significant other and cuddle up on the, I guess, internet.
Yeah. Stream the live show.
Stream the show. Inside Out is up for the Best Original Screenplay, being Josh Cooley, Pete Docter, and Meg LaFauve. And that's going to be against Bridge of Spies, Ex Machina, The Hateful Eight, and Spotlight. So Inside Out is actually also up for Best Animated Film against Minions and Shaun the Sheep movie. So let's take our predictions here. Best Animated Film
is going to be Inside Out, I believe.
I couldn't see otherwise. We did not see Minions.
No, we have not seen
but
Minions.
We did see Shaun the Sheep movie, and I actually really... I love Aardman, so we had to, of course, see that. And that was... I did enjoy the heck out of that. But I still don't think it's enough.
I think Inside Out...
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. That's where I'll put it. Inside Out, in my opinion, still deserves to win. Obviously, Aardman being a British company, and this is a British Awards, maybe they'll favor it a little more, but...
Yeah, I think Inside Out will take it.
Yeah, have to agree. And we mentioned this on the last podcast too, but definitely head to the forum as well if you want to talk about either your predictions for any of these awards. We do have a forum user, Reptile Patrol, which is fantastic. He does all the different analyses as far as breaking it down by over the history of which films are getting screenplays, and then he's talking about the different other film voting groups that are putting things out there, and they're saying, they didn't get it for the screenplay for this one. That typically means that it trickles down, and these do not get it. So it's interesting to see how he kind of analyzes it all and puts it all out there, and other people are chiming in with their thoughts as well. So definitely a good conversation out there. Mm-hmm. So speaking of awards, the For Your Consideration ads are in full swing for the different films that are vying for any attention for any award that may be coming up. But the Good Dinosaur and Sanjay Super Team have their promo videos that were released, and the Good Dinosaur one is just a fantastic video highlighting the cinematography, the look, the feel of the Good Dinosaur. I mean, it's visually what you love about the film in a couple minutes. Mm-hmm. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't. But specifically, the Sanjay Super Team making of is definitely a worthy watch. And if you have not seen this, you absolutely need to. So we've heard kind of the root of the conversation before when the video first kicks off, where it talks about Sanjay kind of not wanting to connect to his parents' roots with the Hindu deities and all these kind of things. Very quickly changes and moves into a slightly different direction. So actually, let's listen to the audio of this, and you'll hear the video opening up about his dad more so. It really pulls at your heartstrings. So let's listen to the audio from this first portion of it, and then we'll check back in.
The film's about, a little version of me growing up and just really hating everything to do with my parents' culture. I was just as cultish as my dad was cultish. it was just, we were cultish in our own different ways. Once I started reading about my parents' gods and demons, I found this kind of vehicle that helped me reconcile with my Indian heritage or my Indian identity. I finally sat down and I asked him, what are you doing? Even though I'd researched it, finally I'd read about it and I started to learn what the heck is he doing, but I never asked my dad. He's like, I'm not religious. He's like, I'm not that religious. He said he made a promise to his mother as she was dying that he would always take some time in some part of the day to do these rituals and rites. And he's like, I wanted to make sure that I never went back on that promise. And he started breaking down as he was telling me this. But it seemed like maybe it's in some way a way of, I don't know, keeping her memory alive. Amongst the deities in the shrine that he has set up, this is typical for a lot of South Asian cultures. He has very prominent photo of my grandmother and grandfather, and they definitely are venerated and worshipped and offered light, water, fruit, and music every day, twice a day.
Sanjay Patel has such a relaxing voice.
I know.
So definitely, if you haven't seen the rest of that, you definitely need to. So after that, they actually have footage of his dad viewing the short film in the theater for the first time and getting his reaction. He starts tearing up, and he's saying, my hope is coming true. That he's realizing that as they were younger, they were separated by this wedge of their beliefs, but then now that they've come together on this common interest, how much more they've grown together. Mm-hmm. Just such a great thing.
Oh, it makes me cry every time. And they showed this footage to us when we were there for the press day, and I was just a crying mess.
Yeah, trying to make it through.
I know.
But it's something that got me really thinking about it, and I think that the value of this short is really enhanced by the backstory, which is why it's something that I think we really need to just continue to push to get out there, because it does make a huge difference. Alone the short is beautiful visually, and we talked about it, that the 3D is potentially the best 3D that we've seen to mimic what it's used for.
Yes, I will say it's the best 3D that Pixar has ever done.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the best use of 3D technology.
It's perfect. Yeah, I mean, in fact, I remember in the theater, I think I said it before, I leaned over to you and it was over. I'm like, okay, this 3D is awesome.
Yeah, we both did.
Yeah.
And I also like the new style that they use, the animation style. It was kind of like a 2D.
Right.
That worked with it so well.
Right.
It was perfect.
But so how I viewed it after we watched it is I almost took it as it's an art piece. But until you dig into the backstory of it, I don't feel like you get the full value of the short. To me, it totally enhanced it and took it to the next level.
I agree.
Once I know more of the story from it. Because
but if you don't know more of that story, that ending scene...
Yeah, where they're laying...
Where the father just kind of looks so sad, and then at the end, Sanjay pats the floor.
Right.
And then they lay together, and they're kind of giggling and oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need the backstory because of that
moment. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I need it to make it a good short.
Oh, you're just saying
it's enhancing it. It's enhancing it for me. It's taking it to the next level.
I agree.
So that's actually something else I'd also say too, is if you haven't seen the Art of Sanjay Super Team book, definitely check that out. First off, the new square format for the books. I know it sounds stupid, but it's shaped like a square instead of a rectangle for the shorts book, for this book, as well as Funny, which we did a review for. I love the new square format.
I love it too.
Right. I don't know why it matters. I think it matters.
And I really hope this is a format that they're going to.
Right.
For all upcoming shorts.
Oh, I would absolutely love that.
Or...
Let's go legacy.
Or 30-minute specials. Toy Story That Time Forgot.
Yeah, that kind of needs to happen.
Come on.
Right. So, but anyways, that if you haven't seen that either, that is definitely worth picking up. It's really, to me, where the Art of books had their origins, where there's so much information. There's a lot of text. There's a lot of photos. And obviously, they filled a whole book. Mm-hmm. And it's a normal thickness, maybe just a little thinner than a standard Art of book for a feature film. So they really packed it in there with the concept art as well as the details. We're going to be doing a bigger review on that coming up, but definitely check that out. It's completely worth it. But anyways, back to the story here. So I often think about history and family and all those kind of things, and that short really kind of got me thinking about myself again. And it made me wish that I could go back and talk to my grandparents more. as he talked about, these rituals that they go through, that his father goes through twice a day and all these kind of things. Because so much of, you only get these kind of perspectives when you're older and looking back. So much of your childhood is people asking you questions. So, oh, what are you doing? What are you playing with? How was school? The questions don't often go the other way. And so much of our life is just focused on us when we're kids. And we only become broader as we get older. And we want to look back. So I'm sure, my grandma had like a favorite TV show. I don't know if she read like a comic in the newspaper or color. I don't know these things. So it really kind of made me step back and realize that it made me take stock of family a little more. So that's why I think this short really is. It totally enhanced itself with the story element of it, because that took it. But I loved it before. I enjoyed the heck out of it. The 3D was amazing. The visuals were amazing.
But the behind-the-scenes story has you thinking about your own.
It made me think about my own life, which is when you know it's good.
Right.
When you can project it on you, and you're like, oh man. So, anyways, just made me kind of think there. It's a little.
That's really nice.
Little divergence, but yeah, there you go. Okay, well, that about takes us through the news of the week. Totally got myself all crazy there for a second. But now we want to talk about the interview that you had been a part of for the Good Dinosaur with directing animator Rob Thompson and animator Kevin O'Hara. Definitely, like we said at the top of the show, this is something that you need to listen to. If you're looking to be an animator, this is fantastic. You're getting great terminology that they're throwing out there, and not just throwing it out an acronym. They're actually telling you what it is. So really good stuff. We'll cover some of those in a minute. But just solid information about animating a quadruped, how they looked at elephants, and all these kind of things. We'll get into the specifics of it after. But I wanted to keep, even though they're talking about animating a quadruped, it's not like 20 minutes. They're talking about it for just a couple minutes. But I wanted to keep it in there just for the terminology for people that are interested, where they talk about like heads up, hip up at the same time, and finding the right balance of caricature, since it is a cartoon character, and mirroring what an actual dinosaur, or what we believe an actual dinosaur would move like. So it's kind of like finding that good balance. I thought that was really interesting. If anybody is interested in animating a quadruped or seeing how they necessarily did it, it's not what they did specifically, but I found a really awesome video that I'm going to link in the show notes. It's about 45 minutes about like taking you through a tutorial about how to animate a 4-legged animal walk cycle. So really kind of interesting there. But some of the terminology that you're going to hear in here are hookups. So those are the scenes that are shot that you're going to be, so you're working on your scene right in the middle, and the hookups are the two scenes that are before and after your scene that are going to
kind of bookending.
That are going to bookend it. So how are your hookups? Is it flowing from one scene to the next? Really kind of cool. They talk about the part of animation blocking, IP, which is in progress, and final. So definitely worth a listen. I think I've sold it enough, right?
I think you have. I'm like, well, gosh, I was in this class, but I think I'm going to learn some more.
All right, well, let's take a listen, and then we'll talk about some insights from it. And then, obviously, I want to talk about your little moment that you had with Kevin in there.
I totally geeked out.
All right. All right, so here it is.
All right. So my name's Rob Thompson. I'm a directing animator on The Good Dinosaur.
And I'm Kevin O'Hara. I was an animator on The Good Dinosaur.
So we're going to show you today some of our process of how we animated the dinosaurs in our film. As an animator at Pixar, we have a really fun job. We really like what we do. It's and one of the funnest things about it is that for every movie we work on, we get to pretend that we are the characters. We get to become them. We get to be in their skin. And so, I can be a talking cowboy doll one year, and the next year I'm pretending I'm a fish swimming in the ocean. So it's a really fun job. On The Good Dinosaur, we had the fun challenge of becoming a dinosaur. So that was something that none of us, I'd never animated a dinosaur before. I'd always wanted to. So we wanted to kind of start and figure everything out. We always do research on every movie. So in this film, we went to the Oakland Zoo and we observed elephants because we figured that's the closest thing that we're going to find to a dinosaur that we can see with our own eyes. So we spent a lot of time at the zoo and breaking down this movement. And then and we're really lucky. Kevin is a very experienced animator, great animator, and he also has a specialty for 4-legged animals. He's animated horses, dogs, bears, iguanas.
Iguanas.
I always loved that one. And,
Mordu.
Mordu.
Did you guys see Brave?
Oh, it's my favorite.
So Kevin's a great. He helped us a ton on this because we were able to go to the zoo, take footage of the animals, observe them, and break down this elephant behavior. So you're all sitting in the same place that we would come every morning when we'd have animation dailies. The director would sit here, and we would all sit in this room, and we would watch all of our shots every morning. But before we get to that point, there's a lot of research that has to be done where we bring the animators all together and we teach them how to animate an elephant that will become a dinosaur. And so Kevin is going to give you the same demo that we've given to all of our animators when they started on the show. And then they were able to go back to their desks and animate.
Right. All right. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so basically at Pixar, we'll have different shows going on at different times. So when we were starting The Good Dinosaur, there was about 10 or 12 of us on pre-pro, and people were working on Inside Out. So we would get a lot of those, after they vacationed, after their break, they would come on to The Good Dinosaur, and we, on pre-pro, it's our responsibility to kind of get everyone up to speed on what Pete's looking for with the rigs and the style. And if you ask any animator, one of the most intimidating things is to animate a quadruped, because quadrupeds have so many moving parts. So what we wanted to do is take reference of the elephant and boil it down to 4 basic poses. Now, I have before I came to Pixar, I was a hand-drawn animator down in the LA area, so I have a workflow where I do a lot of drawings, and in this case, I'm going to be drawing over our footage of the elephant to help us take a look at these 4 key poses. So we wanted to get a couple things. We wanted everyone to start thinking about locomotion, and locomotion is all about efficiency. And sometimes when we think about, hey, we're animating these big, heavy characters, that, hey, why don't we slam the feet? The feet being slammed, that would feel really heavy. But really, that wouldn't be efficient for a big creature. That weight has to go somewhere else, because that would start breaking bones in the legs. And even when we look at this footage, this elephant is pretty graceful. It feels like that it could probably sneak up behind you without hearing it. So we wanted to break this down. Okay, where can we get the weight? And what was key for The Good Dinosaur was the locomotion had to be second nature, because as animators we have to do the acting and get all that emotion on top. We don't want to be thinking about the locomotion. If it's not done right, you may be distracted by it. So it definitely needed to be something that the animator knew, and then we could really go and do some more bigger and better performances. So here, I'll break this down to 4 poses. And I just did some drawovers on the clip. On our key number 1, the head is up, and we have a full leg stride on the front for the front legs, and the chest would be down as the weight's going to be here. And we came up with a general rule on these 4 key poses. When the head is up, the hips are up, and we have the hind leg coming through in a crossing position. The hips would be up so that the elephant wouldn't trip. Then we get to our second key pose, and now we have our crossing position in the front, where our our chests have to be up so that that leg can come through. The head is down, and our general rule: when the head's down, the hips down, to get our full stride length in the back. And if I flip these 2 key poses, you can see the locomotion already starting to happen. And I could step into my 3rd key, which is basically a mirror image of key number 1, where the head is up, hips are up, chest are down for our full leg stride, just the opposite leg of key 1. Same thing with the hind legs for that crossing position. And then key 4 is a mirror image of key number 2. Again, head down, hips down for our full leg stride in the back, and crossing position in the front where the hip will be in the air. Where the chest will be up. So as I flip through the 4 key poses, you can already see that the locomotion's happening on those 4 poses. Now we're basically breaking the animal down to head, chest, and hips, and then understanding how those will move related to the footfalls. And then we can go to the front of the elephant and start checking how the weight is distributed from the front. So again, these are the same 4 key poses, And you'll see notes on here like chest TZ, chest TX. And those are just the controls that we'll be using when we get into the rig that the animators would use. And I'll show you guys that after these clips. So here, if I flip through our key poses, we want to see where that weight's going. Like I said, we're not going to be slamming these feet, but that weight's got to be caught somewhere, so that's going to be up on the shoulders and up on the big muscle mass up here on the shoulders and back. And in order to get this right front leg up, that chest has to get over top of this left foot to be in balance. If that chest were to stay too far screen right, the elephant would get off balance and fall. Then we get to our third key, boom, and then we're up again to getting this chest over this foot, getting feeling that weight really get caught up in that high shoulder area, and getting that chest up so that foot can come through. And we can flip through here, and that's where you can get that big swagger of side-to-side movement with all the weight of the character. And then we can jump to the rear, and where you can see this is where you can probably get a lot of personality when you start dealing with any kind of the hip swinging. Again, our 4 key poses. Boom. Here we have the weight getting caught up here on the hip, and our hip is also in the air to get this foot to come through. Boom, our second pose. Boom, now we're back up. So we can flip through, and I kind of caricatured the movement a little bit, but it definitely gives us a good foundation to where we can start getting the animal moving.
Yeah, it's a really fun thing to kind of figure out, because you have the structure of the reference, and then on top of that, Kevin's pushing it to accentuate certain things, and through that we're kind of finding what the appropriate amount of caricature is, and that's something that we talk a lot about with the director and with our crew.
And then after I would give this talk, there was an assignment for the animators to go back and animate an Arlo walk. So we put together a model sheet where I put Arlo in those same 4 key poses, and it's a 3-page model sheet, so the animators could take that back to their desk, put it up on their wall to have something to reference as they're going through their tests. And then this is what our proprietary software looks like as animators. We get back to our desk, and here's Arlo, our hero, and we can get in and select him and move him around. Here you see he has a blue guide on his neck. It'll go red when we get a little too far out, yellow when it comes close, and that's to help us stay on model, to stay consistent. If Rob's animating one scene with Arlo and I'm doing the one next to him, we have to make sure it all looks like what Pete's looking for, one consistent, as if one animator animated all of it.
You have 85 animators working on Arlo. You need to make sure there is a consistency. And a lot of times, after you've been on the show for a couple months, it kind of takes care of itself. People start policing themselves. But yeah, we have a lot of fancy tools like that to kind of just help us. When you're busy, you cut corners or you get distracted, and there's a lot of helping tools.
And this too, some of the notes that I had on there, like for instance, chest TZ or TX, just something as basic as I can grab Arlo's chest and move him in TX. Or in our case, TZ is north and south on Presto. This is our software is called Presto. And also we have the controls over here. I can actually, I can grab here and move his chest also.
If you went to art school, those numbers are really scary. It's much more, that's the math side of it.
But, yeah, it looks like you're doing your taxes sometimes.
Yeah.
But here, and here's another editor, which is just a visual representation of that scary spreadsheet. I can manipulate here, and we can see his chest moving also. So then the animators would go back and take those 4 key poses, build that into Arlo, and this would take them about a day to do. So here, this is what's called a blocking pass. So when we would take a look at it, it almost has that stop motion feel, or held, where it's it's not smooth. But right now, as animators, we just want to get the most information up in front of the director and the crew, because we're so that we can talk about it and have that freedom of getting notes and addressing notes. And this, like I said, would take about a day for a walk like this. And The key was just to get the animators to understand what's going on in the locomotion. We didn't want this robotic walk throughout the whole film. It was kind of keys for people to fall back on or leap off of, just so they knew. Like I'm going to show you a clip here that Jamie Landy's animated. A challenging scene where Arlo's walking up a mountain. So she has to understand the locomotion and how it can convey everything that Pete's looking for in the scene. In this shot, he's exhausted, he's away from home, so there's some acting that has to go on top of it. And then how can she use the terrain and understand what's going on with the footfalls to make that believable? So I'll show you 3 versions. The first version will be blocking. The second version will be called IP, or in progress. And then the third will be the final version that you see in the film. So her blocking pass here took probably about 4 days, right, just for the blocking pass. And in this pass, she's getting it up in front of Pete and the crew to make sure the camera's working for Pete, the hookups, meaning the scene coming before and after, and if the emotional beats are there for what Pete wants.
And you can see this method here is the same method that Disney animators have been using for, as long as, probably since the 30s. Where you're doing a pose-to-pose style, where it's just those 4 poses that Kevin was showing you, and then the timing is changed based on the performance. So these tent poles, it's so important to have these markers of information of when this foot is here, when this is pushing, when the weight is here. It's such a great way to have a guide to, because there's so much going on in these shots, not even thinking about performance, but just physicality. You can get lost easy if you don't have like a roadmap. And this was something that was so vital to us just getting this film going, because the character's pretty much walking on uneven ground for most of the film.
Yeah, and you'll notice here she doesn't have, Jamie didn't animate the tail. That's something that she would do in the next step, because you can imagine she'd probably, in blocking, you're usually going to get notes, or there's going to be changes that are going to have to happen, and the tail really relies on what's going on with the body and the acting, so she would get to that on the next step. So that's blocking, and like we said, it took her about probably 4 days to do blocking. And now here's the IP pass. And you can see she's not worried about the landscape behind her. It's pretty much she has the set or stage, if you will, that she's working with on what Arlo's walking up on. And here you'll see it's smoother. She's added more to it, some more acting in the eyes. She added a little stumble to the gait as Arlo's coming up, which Pete really liked. And then started some rough animation on the tail. And if you ever watch animators, you're always back and forth frame by framing everything, right? And here, what is pretty neat, where Jamie's understanding the locomotion, and she used it for what Pete was looking for in the shot. So Arlo's coming up and he's tired, and you can see he's planting that front left foot, but that right foot isn't coming through fast enough because he is tired and he's climbing up the hill. So all of his weight gets to go screen left here to try to catch it. So it's some of those things that, understanding those fundamentals of the gait, you can then help try to get what Pete's going for in that scene. So this version, IP, what were we saying? How long did that take her, you think?
I think it was like a week and a half. It's like, 4 days for blocking, and she's probably showing blocking, once or twice in that time, and then a week and a half she's probably showing once or twice, getting notes.
And then she'll jump into the final polish. Now this is the final version that you see, but in the final polish she'll be making sure she's on model with what the crew's looking for Arlo, doing all the emotional polishing on the eyes, the face, all that stuff. And as animators, when we see it in final version, that's new to us, because we're used to when we see it, it looks like what we just saw in the IP version. Low resolution, we don't see all the beautiful trees and the sunlight. So about a month later, we'll see what our shots look like after they went downstream through the other departments. And to us, it's like a whole new scene. We've been looking at it over and over for months.
Yeah, it's a nice surprise when you see your shot come out of all the other departments. They do all their beautiful work on top of it, and it really feels like, oh wow, this is going to work.
Yeah. and you're like, wow, that looks nice, but they put Volsim or something on top of
Yeah.
to really plus what you were working on.
Yeah, we have all sorts of simulations that run after the fact. So after our animation, we drive a simulation of muscle and skin, and then that kind of gets, a team looks at that and kind of evaluates, is that too much movement? Is it too little? And so there's a lot of stuff that happens downstream.
So I just did a demo on how we broke down quadruped motion looking at an elephant. So did you guys get to see the clips with the T-Rexes at all?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now the T-Rex is a little bit different. When on pre-pro, I did a regular biped run of a T-Rex. And that where we studied birds, ostriches, that sort of thing. And it was a lot of fun. I showed it in here with everybody, and we all talked about it. And Pete had a whole nother take that he wanted to do with the T-Rexes, which was this kind of cowboy on horseback. So then the challenge as animators, okay, how do we figure that out? Because how do we animate a biped to look like it's a quadruped with somebody on its back? So that's a whole challenge of its own. So I tried a hand-drawn test to see if this is something along the lines of what Pete was thinking, where we were kind of thinking that the hind legs would be a bit more like a horse, and then from kind of the belly up would be this cowboy on horseback. And then we all talked about it, and we applied it to some test shots. And then Nate Wall had the task of actually doing this in the shot. Of trying to, how do we get that cowboy feel with a biped? And it was definitely a puzzle.
And it's something that, Kevin, you probably spent about a month back and forth experimenting.
Yeah, we studied a lot of barrel racing with
That's right.
cowboys on horseback doing barrel racing and that kind of stuff. Seeing hey, how can we try to get this feel of what Pete's looking for? And you've seen Pete pitch, right? He's pretty convincing. So I remember he came in our office and he was acting as a T-Rex on horseback. It was hilarious. So after I saw that, that's when I did the hand drawn test, because I was definitely we gotta see if we can visualize what Pete's talking about.
So you're kind of seeing two of the big challenges that come to us in our department. A lot of times, it's figuring out how to make a dinosaur move realistically. So we have reference for that. But then in a situation like this, when the director comes to you and says, can you make a T-Rex look like it's a rider on a horse? It's a puzzle that, we've never seen that before. We've never thought of that concept. And yeah, you just keep experimenting until you find something. And
and then like we were talking about some of the other challenges were the really subtle acting moments that are in the film. And some of them done with minimum dialogue. So how do you get that to work also? So we have the challenges of, all right, how do we get these big creatures moving a certain way, but how do we get this boy and his dog without too much dialogue? So those are challenges that are juicy to animators. They love all that stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when the T-Rexes roar and the side of their mouths flap, where did you draw reference? Like watching Jurassic Park? Because that blew us away.
Oh yeah.
It was like a really small detail, but it really added, when they roar, like that's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Like it was very realistic.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember, for me, when we as animators, we get to work with the character riggers also, who are building the characters for us. And I remember we'd be testing those out, and any animator that would find a control like that would just love it, because it can go nuts, and you can get all this extra. You can feel that air and power coming out of there, and moving the back of the throat and all that kind of stuff. So I think it was anything, referencing anything that had kind of the big and powerful, like even lions when they roar or something like that, where you see that power of the roar through what happens to the body and the skin.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I remember seeing some of the artwork that Matt Nolte would draw, and he would draw that in there, and that would go to the modeling department, and they're like, "Oh, what is this thing? Oh, it's like a corner mouth webbing," and then they build it, and they're like, "Well, we built it. We have to put a control on it," and then you go through all this experimentation, and then you show it, and then it's like, oh, push this more. And it's just like Kevin says, someone does a test that has it in there, and they're like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now everybody needs to put that in anytime they roar. So there's this evolution of kind of the idea within that just kind of just happens. Like from that, I think it was just like one drawing that Matt did, and then someone built it, and then someone rigged it, and then we had it. Some crazy person found the control for it. And
I showed just a couple basic controls on Arlo, but he probably has around 3,500 controls as far as his eyes, his tongue. Like even on that stuff, we can vibrate the tongue, and so we have a lot of controls that we can touch on to try to make them look realistic, or what Pete's looking for.
I have another question if no one else does. Okay. One of my favorite animated scenes of all time, it was actually from the trailer, or it was a TV spot, but it's the rainbow gecko that goes on the ground right before Arlo. Can you tell me who animated that, or do you know?
We do.
Is it you?
Well, I did it, and so did Guillermo helped out on that too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But the textures on that gecko, because when we animated it, it looked green like this. And then you see what he looks like in the film, and it's like, wow.
It's just the movement. The movement got me. As soon as I saw that trailer, I mean, we did a Google Hangout. We did a podcast, and that's like seriously one of my favorite animated moments in the entire film.
That's great. Well, Guillermo too. Yes,
it's so realistic. I don't know what it was, but it was that specific moment, and I just wanted to know who animated it. So.
Wow. Answered. Yeah, there we go.
That's why he's our guy.
Yeah.
All right, the next interview in the series there. So Rob and Kevin, great insights. I absolutely loved every minute of it. And can I say how right I was?
Yes.
So I don't even know if you know what I'm going to mention yet.
The dinosaurs with the mouth when they roar?
No, but we can talk about that if you'd like. I was going to say, when we watched the first trailer and you geeked out about the lizard, we'll get there. I saw that Arlo's foot. I saw Arlo's foot, and I said, that looks I said it on the Hangout.
Yes.
So there's proof out there. I said it looks exactly like an elephant's foot when it hits the ground and it kind of splays out and everything like that. I was like, that looks like it. And the first thing they say when I'm listening to this and editing the audio from, your session is, sure enough, they went and studied elephants. I was like, this is too much.
You're like, I found my place.
I was proud of myself. I tooted my own horn, patted myself on the back, and gave myself a thumbs up.
Oh, good job.
How about that? And so yes. Okay, let's talk about your little moment here.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Well, so it was you obviously you were excited about that, and do you think at any level when you were mentioning that was one of your favorite animated moments with that little lizard that was running across, that it was like a setup? Did you think that like somebody thought that they could have set up? Because what are the chances?
Okay, I thought I'm going to mention this, and we've talked about it on podcasts. We've talked about it on the Hangout when we watched the trailer for the first time.
Right.
I've been geeking out over this one like 3-second clip saying it's just beautiful. I don't know what it is. It has me, and every time I've seen the movie, I'm just like, gosh, that scene just stands out to me, the way that little critter moves.
But why does something so small matter like that?
I don't know. It just...
Because I was thinking about it as you were saying it, and you're going, it's like one of my favorite animated moments, and I'm like, what is it about it?
I don't know. For some reason, I love it.
I think as I tried to think about your perspective on it, because I think what I like about it is in the trailer it works perfect. It works great in the movie too, but it works super good in the trailer because it's like you see his foot come in, they've got the soft music playing, and then you see this little lizard run across, and it's so fluid and natural.
That's like fluid. That's how...
That it just like... It just feels right, and it's like it's a great transition to the next shot.
It feels very organic.
That's a great way, yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like, gosh, that belongs there.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't there...
Right.
It just feels like it belongs. But anyway, I thought when I asked the question, I thought they're going to be like, gosh, we don't know. There's
right, because I know you're like who, if you know, do you know?
Yeah, 50 animators. It could have been this group of animators.
Right.
But the fact that Rob looked at Kevin and it's like, it was this guy.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh. gosh.
Well, and then Kevin was very gracious in saying that Guillermo Jacinto was actually the other animator that had worked on it as well. Mm-hmm. So that was great that, you know, he gave him a little credit there too. But I still can't believe that. I swear.
And I almost didn't ask because I asked my first question
right.
first about the, you know,
like that
the
flapping.
Mouths, the flapping on the T-Rex's mouth.
Right. That web gate or whatever they called it.
Yeah, so no one else really had any other questions. So they're like, we can answer another one. And I just waited just to see if anyone else who didn't ask a question yet.
Right.
And I was like, no one did. And so I was like, I have another one.
Right. Well, you might as well at that point.
Yeah. And I told you, how do I find out? I really want to know this. So
you did. Yeah, you said it on the Hangout. You're like, I need to know who animated that.
The door was wide open. So
it's crazy.
I walked right in. And I asked. So I was really excited.
Blew my mind. I had no idea that because you told me that obviously ahead of time, but even hearing it, I'm just like, what? They had to have thought that was some kind of crazy setup or something.
I know.
Or like that you knew in the back of your head and you were just trying to be like, hey.
How would I have known?
I know because it's such a, first off, the movie, you didn't see the credits.
No.
And it's not like they're going to say lizard animation.
I know. Yeah.
Right.
That's such a random thing to have said that you liked.
Right. It totally is. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was fun. That was like one of the highlights of the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I also just wanted to say as well, I really liked listening to this one. Both of them had great, they could be sports announcers. Like, they both had really great pacing and, they were bouncing off each other well.
Yeah, it was really, and it was in one of the theater rooms, so we were all sitting on comfy couches.
Is the one with the blue couches?
It was red,
okay.
The one that we were in.
Which building were you in? Were you in the Steve Jobs building? Okay.
Mm-hmm. But it was a theater room to the right. There's one to the left.
So you walk in the... So
by the cereal room.
It's on that side.
It's on that side.
Okay. So because when you did the screening of it the night before, that's the theater that...
That's the big theater.
That's
these
the big
are the
theater.
Smaller
These
theaters.
are their daily rooms.
Yeah, the daily rooms.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we were in one of those.
I thought that was the side that had the blue couches.
I thought they were red, but I could be wrong.
Who knows? I could be too. I just thought it was.
But yeah, it was one of my favorite. I mean, everyone there is so engaging.
Yeah.
But they're a calm presence.
Yeah. It was definitely a good one, and we say it every time. I was like, dang, I want to be an animator.
I know you change your mind a lot.
Every time. I just love every single moment of all these departments. I mean, there's certain ones that I gravitate towards more than others. Mm-hmm. I know me personally what Sharon Callahan does. I don't have that kind of skill to create environments and those types of things. I definitely know that that's not even a potential. But if my brain even senses...
That is your dream, though.
But if my brain even senses that there's a potential, I'm like, all right, I'm interested. So yeah, and then I got started...
But see, where I'm like, you can do it.
I know. But then I started getting into this... watching that quadruped video of this guy that's doing that, I'm like, I need to be watching more of these tutorials. It's good stuff. So, anyways, another interview will be coming on the next podcast, so stay tuned for that. Not going to say which one we're going to do just yet, but it'll be another a good one, and one that you had a one-on-one interview with.
Yes.
Afterwards, so that was kind of a good connection there. All right, well, I believe that about wraps up episode 46 of the Pixar Post Podcast. Of course, be sure to follow us on all of our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, Google+, and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Overcast, or Stitcher. Lastly, if you like today's show, let us know. Write us on iTunes, leave a comment on our site, or send us an email, info@pixarpost.com. We absolutely want to hear from you, and like I mentioned before, too, if you have any feedback on the Pixar Minute, which we'll be doing another one very shortly here, let us know as well. We want to definitely get your thoughts as far as the frequency of them once we start putting them out there, and do you like the format, all those kind of fun things. All right, so signing off as usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And be sure to stay tuned to PixarPost.com all week for the latest Pixar news. Bye-bye.